Yu Menglong's funeral moved the world, and fans revolt. The world stood still as news broke of Yu Menglong's final farewell. A star who had once lit up screens with his charming smile, soulful eyes, and unforgettable performances was now gone, and his funeral turned into a global spectacle that stirred emotions, ignited conversations, and among his passionate fans. The sheer gravity of the event was unlike anything witnessed in recent memory. From Beijing to Seoul, from New York to Paris, people tuned in, shared tributes, and flooded social media with tears, anger, and disbelief. For many, Yu Menglong was not just another actor. He was a symbol of warmth, authenticity, and the kind of artistry that etched itself into the hearts of those who followed him. His passing, abrupt and devastating, waves of grief that rippled far beyond the entertainment industry. People who had come to view him as family, as a deeply loved. The funeral itself was a haunting yet beautiful scene. The venue, draped in white lilies and chrysanthemums, carried a soft fragrance of mourning, a reminder of purity and remembrance. Photographs of Yu, from his born to his peak as a beloved actor, lined the walls. Fans described the atmosphere as both peaceful and unbearable, a place where the beauty of his legacy clashed painfully with the reality of his absence. Stars from across the industry, Sukai, Songyun, Yongzi, and countless others, gathered in solidarity, their tear-streaked faces reflecting the collective heartbreak of millions. Sukai was seen holding Songyun's hand tightly, visibly shaken as he offered words of comfort to grieving friends and family. For those who attended, it was not just a funeral. It was history in the making. The world watched as fans who had flown from different countries lined the streets outside the funeral hall, clutching flowers, handwritten notes, framed posters of their idol. Some cried uncontrollably, while others simply stood in stunned silence, unable to process the reality. Videos emerged of young fans collapsing in tears, overwhelmed by the enormity of the loss. Social media exploded with hashtags such as #GoodbyeYuMenglong, #ForeverInOurHearts, and #JusticeForYuMenglong, with millions of posts pouring in within hours. Celebrities shared their memories, recalling kindness and professionalism, while ordinary people posted stories of how Yu's dramas had helped them through personal struggles, loneliness, and even depression. His works had become a refuge for so many, and losing him felt like losing a piece of their own soul. But what truly shocked the world was the sudden turn the funeral took. While it began as a solemn event of mourning, it evolved into a revolt, an uprising of fans who felt betrayed, silenced, and left with too many unanswered questions. Whispers of controversy had already surrounded Yu Menglong's passing, with some fans alleging that there was more to the story than what had been publicly revealed. The explanation seemed too polished, too rehearsed, leaving many dissatisfied. At the funeral, emotions boiled over. A group of fans held up banners demanding the truth, chanting in unison, "We want answers." Their voices, filled with grief and rage, echoed outside the hall, creating an electric and unsettling atmosphere. The revolt was not merely about Yu Menglong's death, but also about the treatment of fans, loyal supporters who felt disrespected and excluded. Many were angered that they had been kept away from paying their respects inside the hall, restricted by barricades and heavy security. Videos circulated online of young fans pleading with guards, begging to be allowed to place flowers closer to his casket. "We loved him too," one tearful fan shouted, her voice. "He belonged to us as much as he did to the industry." This sentiment resonated deeply across social media, sparking debates about the relationship between celebrities, agencies, and fans. As tensions rose, reports claimed that several fans to exhaustion and emotional strain, requiring medical assistance. Yet, despite the chaos, what stood out was the unity and passion that bound them together. Thousands of strangers, from different backgrounds and countries, embraced one another, held hands, and comforted each other like family. Candlelight vigils were held on the streets, with fans singing songs from Yu Menglong's most famous dramas, their trembling voices creating a haunting chorus of farewell. The sight of young and old alike lighting candles in the cold night air painted a picture of devotion that the world could not ignore. Inside, the eulogies delivered by Yu's closest friends added another layer of heartbreak. Tan Songyun, her voice trembling, recalled their last conversation, describing him as a gentle soul who gave more love to the world than he ever asked for. Su Kai, visibly broken, admitted that losing you was like losing a brother, a piece of myself. The room was filled with sobs, and even the most stoic faces could not hide their grief. Yet, beyond the tears, there was also anger simmering beneath the surface. Rumors spread of behind-the-scenes conflicts and unspoken truths about Yu's career pressures, further fueling the fans' revolt outside. As night fell, the funeral that began as a private farewell turned into an international movement. Online, petitions demanding investigations gained hundreds of thousands of signatures within hours. Influencers, journalists, and even politicians began weighing in, urging transparency and fairness. The revolt was no longer just about one star's passing. It became a statement against silence, secrecy, and the exploitation of artists in the entertainment world. Fans declared that Yu Menglong's legacy would not be one of quiet tragedy, but of change and revolution. His funeral had moved the world, but it had also awakened it. The days following the funeral were equally charged. Memorials sprang up in public squares across Asia, Europe, and the Americas. Crowds gathered in Seoul, Tokyo, London, and Los Angeles, holding portraits of Yu and singing in unison. Entire city blocks were lit up with projected images of his smile, as fans turned grief into an outpouring of love. But the revolt persisted, as many refused to let the matter rest. Viral videos of fans' representatives gained millions of views, highlighting the demand for accountability. Some agencies issued statements calling for calm, but these only seemed to inflame the movement further, with fans accusing them of empty words and hypocrisy. In the middle of all this, Yu Menglong's family pleaded for peace, expressing gratitude for the love shown to their son while asking for respect for their privacy. Their statement, though heartfelt, did little to calm the storm. The love fans had for Yu was too immense, too raw, and too powerful to be contained. For them, his life represented something pure and irreplaceable, and his death left a wound that demanded closure. The revolt was not just noise, it was the manifestation of grief that refused to be silenced. What the world witnessed at Yu Menglong's funeral was more than mourning. It was a cultural moment that blurred the lines between celebrity and fan, between private grief and public outcry. His passing had reminded people of the fragile humanity behind the glitz of fame. Fans revolted not because they wanted chaos, but because they loved too deeply to let go without truth and justice. They carried with them the belief that Yu Menglong's story was not over, that his legacy would continue to inspire, and that his funeral marked not just the end of a life, but the beginning of a movement. Even now, days after the funeral, the revolt burns brightly. Online spaces remain flooded with tributes, artwork, and heartfelt letters addressed to you. Street murals have appeared in major cities, painted by fans who never met but shared the same grief. Documentaries and retrospectives are already in production, capturing the magnitude of this moment in history. Yu Menglong's name has become immortalized not only as a brilliant actor, but as the spark that lit a fire in the hearts of millions. The world will never forget the sight of his final farewell, the flowers, the tears, the chants, and the revolt that erupted from love too strong to be contained. In the end, Yu Menglong's funeral was not just about loss. It was about connection, about how one person's light could move the world, and how, even in death, he brought people together in ways few ever could. As the candles continue to burn and the revolt continues to echo, the message remains clear. Yu Menglong may be gone, but his spirit lives on, not just in the shows and films he left behind, but in the hearts of those who refuse to let his memory fade. His funeral moved the world, and his fans, united in love and grief, have vowed that his legacy will burn forever. As the world continues to reel from the events of Yu Menglong's funeral, the shockwaves show no sign of slowing down. What began as an intimate farewell has transformed into a global phenomenon, with millions still glued to their screens, scrolling through endless videos, images, and emotional tributes. The revolt that erupted outside the funeral hall has now spilled far beyond those gates, shaping conversations across continents, forcing agencies, media outlets, and even governments to respond. But at the heart of it all lies the undying love of fans who refuse to let Yu Menglong's story fade quietly into the night. Days after the funeral, fans have taken over entire streets in Beijing and Shanghai, staging memorials that look less like vigils and more like living festivals of memory. Streets are filled with candles, giant LED screens replaying his most iconic scenes, and thousands of voices singing theme songs from the dramas that made him a household name. The most haunting sight was captured in a viral video, a crowd of fans holding up their phones in the rain, screens glowing with Yu's face as they chanted in unison, "You live in us forever." The revolt, far from being a momentary flash of anger, has evolved into a movement with a clear message. Fans will no longer accept half-truths, scripted statements, or being sidelined when it comes to the lives of the stars they love. For many, Yu Menglong's funeral was not just about mourning him, but about demanding change in the very structure of the entertainment world. Why was his life so pressured? Why were fans kept at arm's length even in his farewell? Why do agencies and networks profit so heavily from the love of fans, yet give so little transparency in return? These questions have sparked what some are now calling the Yu Menglong Effect. In Seoul, banners appeared overnight on tall buildings declaring, "Stars are human too. Respect their lives." In Tokyo, thousands gathered in Shibuya to hold a silent tribute, their silence speaking louder than any chant. In Paris, fans left white roses at the Eiffel Tower with handwritten notes to Yu, each letter folded carefully as though it were meant for his hands alone. And in Los Angeles, a massive crowd held a candlelight march down Hollywood Boulevard, demanding not only justice but also recognition of the global power of Asian stars. What's even more staggering is how Yu Menglong's peers have stepped into the storm. Su Kai, who stood by his coffin with visible heartbreak, later released an emotional message that left fans sobbing. "Menglong's smile was a light in all our lives," he wrote, "but that light also carried weight we may never fully understand. I stand with his fans today because their grief is real, their love is true, and their questions deserve answers." His words became a rallying cry, echoed and reposted millions of times. Tan Songyun, equally shattered, was filmed wiping her tears as she placed a single sunflower at his grave, whispering, "You promised us laughter forever. We'll keep it alive for you." But alongside the grief and anger, there is also something profoundly beautiful happening. Fans who never knew each other before are uniting, forming communities that stretch across borders and languages. Online forums are filled with people sharing stories of how Yu's dramas helped them through heartbreak, loneliness, or even saved them from giving up on life. In these stories, his legacy shines brighter than ever. His fans are no longer just viewers. They have become guardians of his memory. The revolt has even inspired documentaries and special programs now in production. News outlets are rushing to capture the movement, while fans themselves are creating tribute films, art exhibitions, and charity events in his name. There's talk of establishing the Yu Menglong Foundation, dedicated to supporting mental health awareness for young artists, a cause many believe Yu himself would have supported wholeheartedly. If this becomes reality, then his funeral may not just have been a farewell, but the birth of a mission that changes countless lives for the better. Yet through all the noise, one thing remains constant. Yu Menglong's spirit continues to move the world. His laughter, his tears on screen, his gentle persona, all remain vivid in the hearts of those who refuse to let him fade. The revolt, then, is not a rebellion of destruction, but of devotion. It is love in its fiercest, rawest form, refusing to be silenced. And that is why fans are calling this more than a moment. They say it is history. A legacy written not only by Yu himself, but by every tear shed, every candle lit, and every voice that dared to cry out for him. Here at K-Romance Central, we will continue to follow every development of this extraordinary story. This channel has always been about celebrating the stars who inspire us, and now, more than ever, it's about honoring their humanity, their struggles, and the fans who give them life beyond the screen. If Yu Menglong's funeral has proven anything, it is that love does not end with goodbye. It only grows stronger, louder, and more unstoppable. So if you, too, believe in keeping Yu Menglong's legacy alive, if you want to be part of the family that refuses to let his memory fade, then you are in the right place. Join us at K-Romance Central, where we dive deeper into the stories that move the world, bring you exclusive updates, emotional moments, and tributes that keep our favorite stars close to our hearts. Don't just watch from the sidelines, be part of the movement. Hit that subscribe button, turn on your notifications, and share this story so the flame of Yu Menglong's light reaches every corner of the globe. Together, we will make sure his name is never forgotten, his smile never fades, and his impact continues to inspire generations. Because Yu Menglong may have left this world, but here, in our hearts and in our community, he still lives. Forever.